Hey guys, welcome to the Cast Iron Man cooking channel. Today we are going to be making a really fun dish, a really easy dish that you can put in a pot and set and just walk away for a while. But don't leave your house because unless you're super confident, I would never do that. I'd be afraid my entire house is going to burn down. But it's something which you don't really have to baby. So join me while I make pork chili verde, which, like I said, it's a great dish. It's a crowd pleaser, and I mean, it's absolutely incredible and versatile. So to make this dish, you're going to start with pork shoulder. We need 4 pounds of it. Right here, I have a 7 pound pork shoulder with the bone in. It ran me about 194ish a pound, and I'm just going to start breaking it down so I get a good 4 pounds or so for our main course. The rest I'm going to reserve for making sausage on another day. But for now, we're just going to take 4 pounds of this pork and wind up cubing it nice and small and reserving some larger chunks for folks who want to grab a larger piece of pork to put in their taco. As I'm breaking this down, you can see that I am paying some close attention to the fat pieces. And what we're going to do with those fat pieces that I'm cutting off and reserving is cook them in our pot, in our cast iron pot, and create a nice rendered down pork fat, which our fragrant spices will be combined with when we go to mix in our salsa verde, bring it all together, and put it in the oven. This pork butt had a little bit more of the undesirable fat on it than some people might like. It's just going to take a little bit more effort in terms of trimming it up. It just depends on the butcher you go to, or if you go to a big chain, big box supermarket, you might have to do a little more work. But for me, this is not a problem because I rarely, if ever, have anything to do or anywhere to go. This pork butt could have been 75 pounds and it would have been fine because, like I said, I really have a social life which is best encapsulated with the concept of non existence. For you, it's probably not the case. You probably lead a normal life where you have things to do other than hack up a multi-pound piece of pork flesh in your kitchen all day. So maybe just go to a nicer butcher that has mixed their labor with the product and has it ready for you. So do your best to cube it. Don't, like I said, don't worry if it's not perfect. And when you're done, add some salt onto it, probably like a teaspoon and a half, and mix it all together. And what you could do is basically call this a dry brine because we're going to put it in the fridge and it's going to sit for an hour before we have all of our other stuff ready to go. And it's going to make the pork nice and juicy. So put it in your fridge, cover with plastic wrap or a reusable top. And nope, not that fridge because it's full. Now we're going to make our other accoutrements. So we're going to do some pickled red onions here. We're going to start with a cup of apple cider vinegar. We're going to get a higher exposure on the image there for some reason. And dump that in a medium saucepan. Put some water in, a half cup. Then to the half cup of water, you are going to put in a teaspoon of salt, sea salt preferably, or fine sea salt. That's what I like. Do a tablespoon of black peppercorns and 2 tablespoons of white sugar. Once you have all these ingredients in the medium saucepan, put it on medium to high on the stovetop and bring it to a simmer slash light boil. Chop up your onion. For me, this is my preferred way to chop the onion when doing pickled red onions. Get a nice big piece rather than little tiny small ones, which you could obviously do as well. But I just think that this allows for a much nicer end presentation. If you have a untapered ball jar like this, then you can put it in there. But if you don't have that, do not steal it from your local dive bar where they serve overhopped IPAs. Do not do that. It's against the law. So once the mixture comes to kind of a simmer, it doesn't really need to reach a boil. You can stir it together, make sure all the sugar's dissolved, and then carefully pour it into the prepared mason jar with the red onion slices. And look at that go. I mean, that's a thing of beauty right there with the color contrast of the pink and the black peppercorns. Oh, come on. It smells so good, but you are going to have to wait at least an hour for them to pickle, and you can store these for, I would say, a week. I go a week on these. I don't like to go further than that. So 7 days. Although some people will say go longer. For me, that is good as far as a germ and bacterial standpoint is concerned. Okay, enough of that. Put those on the side and start to prep the rest of your toppings. We're going to make the avocado smear now. This is really nice for putting on the tortilla because it has a lot of structure to it that you can pile the ingredients on and they kind of stay all packed together. It does look a little bit like guacamole, but it has the addition of Greek yogurt, cotija cheese, and a little bit of heavy cream, so the consistency is not quite as chunky as that. You're going to want to be really excited about this avocado because that thing is perfect for 99 cents. I mean, last week we were talking 250 for an avocado. If I can get an avocado like this for 99 cents, that's a really, really good day at the supermarket, guys. Okay? You remember they were $5 at one point or something like that? Absolute lunacy. Anyway, accept the fact that your lighting has changed once again because there's a storm rolling in, and dice your avocado and slice your avocado so it's easier to put into the mixer that is not a mixer at all, but a food processor that is too small, because I always do this. I always choose a vessel that is too small, either to mix something in or put dough in. It's just a problem I have, and I have a lot of problems, so this being one of the more minor ones. This is going to require some shaking and some scraping, which is nothing new, and we will see revisited in the KitchenAid, but it makes a great end product. So after you're done with that, grab a pickle from the fridge if you've got any. These Vlasic kosher dills are great because I haven't eaten anything all day. And move on to your tortilla making, because you got to have fresh tortillas with this. Okay, so the tortillas, right? You can't depend on me or anyone else as far as I'm concerned in terms of hydration content of dough, because if somebody writes a recipe in Southern California where the humidity is nothing, then you are going to have an issue when you're cooking in the Northeast, like I am in New Jersey, which is, let's be honest, it's a swamp. You're going to need to introduce more flour because it will be too wet with the humidity in the air. At one point, we actually bought a hydrometer for the kitchen because we were becoming a little too obsessed with the variables. So put all your dry ingredients in, mix them together, melt your butter, and then combine your butter with hot tap water and stir together. Put your mixer on low and feed the liquid into the mixer. And here we are again, guys. We're going to be scraping the sides. And if I had a nickel for every time I had to scrape the sides of a KitchenAid mixer, I would be a wealthy man, guys. I would not be trying to do this for a living, or whatever I am trying to do. I really haven't even figured that out yet. So once you're done mixing your dough, 6 minutes on low, about 3 minutes on medium, you're going to want to pull it out onto your cutting board. And the texture and the consistency of the dough we're looking for here is slightly tacky, not overly dry, because we don't want a really dry tortilla. So this is pretty tacky but nice, like very almost velvety. And once you have it on the cutting board, just go ahead and start slapping it down and mixing it together a little bit more. Not kneading it, just bringing it together and trying to form it into a smooth and silky mass. Oh my God, everybody likes to say that, oh, the dough is so silky and it's so smooth. Well, I tell you what, it will have bumps on it no matter what until it actually rests. Then it will attain a much smoother character. But smooth it over and, just drag it and twist and turn and drag and use the friction of the board to make it into a nice ball that has the bottom tucked in. And then you could just plop it in a bowl. If you want to spray it with some cooking spray, you can do that so it doesn't stick and it'll just pop right out when it's done, but we're going to want to throw a rag over that and put it on the counter to rest. Now we're going to revisit those fat scraps that we were trimming at the very beginning. And what we want to do with those is put them in a pan over medium heat. And as soon as they get a little bit of color, add 3/4 of a cup of water. And you're going to begin to establish a little bit of a fond on the bottom, a little bit of texture on the bottom of the pot. And just keep scraping away at the pork. Be careful though, this could spit up with the oil and the water mixing together. While that is going, you're going to want to portion out your tortilla balls. And what I did was I just weighed the whole mass on a scale and divided by 15 because that's going to give me the size of tortilla that I want in the end. But there's no reason you can't alter that and make a larger tortilla. Just make sure that the vessel which you're going to be cooking them up in is large enough to accommodate such a tortilla size. Same technique as the larger ball. We just want to make sure that the cutting board has enough friction. If it doesn't, just put some water on and rub it into the wood and bring them together like you would a pizza ball. But if you don't know how to do a pizza ball, just bring them together on the bottom like a little dumpling, I guess, or something like that. Just tuck it in the bottom and then flip it over, put your palm over top, and roll it together. It takes a little practice to get it right and get a nice smooth ball every time, but you're just going to have to practice. You're just going to have to make this recipe more than once, which is really not the worst thing in the world. Not actually, it's far from the worst thing in the world. There are much worse things, which we don't need to get into here. I'm sure you guys have imaginations. And once your pork fat has reduced and the water is evaporated, go ahead and remove it with a spoon and put it on a plate. But just remove all the fat, and you could, if you want to do something with that, you can feel free, but I just went ahead and tossed it. Now that you have your fat warming up at about medium heat, you're going to want to put a teaspoon of cumin in, a pinch of ground cloves, and some oregano, 1.5 tablespoons or so, and a dash of cinnamon. Let that toast up 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and it's going to become really fragrant and nice, as you can see there. And put that salsa verde in, which if you wanted to see how to make that, all you got to do is go over to my recipe for salsa verde. I kept it really chunky. You certainly could have blended it if you want, but this is the way I prefer it. You're also going to want to put in about 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. I think it really rounds out the character as far as the sweetness is concerned with the pork, and then flutter in 2 bay leaves. Add some chicken stock, a cup or a little more than a cup is what I decided to add in terms of how soupy I wanted this to be. And what you want to do after that is just simmer it a lot. You don't want to lose a lot of fluid because then you're just going to wind up putting a little more in. You want this to be kind of this whole congealed mixture that is insertable into a taco. Insertable. So throw your pork that's been in the fridge for about an hour in and stir it together. Make sure all of the raw pork is coated and submerged as best you can in the Dutch oven. Once you have finished coating your pork, you're going to go ahead and pop it in a preheated oven that is around 350 degrees for me, because my convection oven is a massive pain in the ass. While the pork is finishing for 3.5 to 4 hours, go ahead and start flattening out your tortillas with a wooden rolling pin. And again, you can see the humidity issues here with my rolling pin and the wood cutting board. It's just giving me a hard time today, but I just keep flouring it and dusting off the flour as you go if you do need to do that. Probably the best part about making these tortillas fresh and toasting them yourself is you can control the char marks that are on the tortillas. So if you want them a little lighter, all you got to do is turn the pan down, let them cook for a little longer so the interior is cooked. Or if you want them really crispy and blackened, you can do that as well. And it's really nice. It's certainly much better than buying in the store, and it just allows you to add a further element of character to your dish. The pork is done, the storm is gone, and the light is much better, although, again, a little overexposed here in this shot. Mix the pork together, there'll be like a little layer of fat on top. Just stir that in and bring your pork over to the board, where you can begin to construct your taco and put your pickled red onions on, your avocado schmear, hit it with some lime, maybe a little extra cotija, which you'll no doubt have extra of. These tacos are incredible, guys. I hope that you can enjoy them with some friends, throw back a couple beers, because they're just absolutely delicious, as you'll see evidenced by all the juice that drips out onto the cutting board from my mouth. Thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate it, and see you soon. Bye-bye.